Hey everyone, welcome to Checkpoint Achieved, the weekly gaming podcast where we talk about video games and news going on in the industry. I'm Bryden Kex and this is episode 3. I've got with me today Gage Paul.
Hi.
And Mike Leahy.
Hey.
We're going to jump right into news today and we're going to talk a little bit more about the PS4. We went into quite a bit of detail last episode about all the news that was going on with that. We watched the conference, got our own opinions onto episode number 2, and we're going to continue on with that with the fact that there was a couple big news stories that came out after the conference. Shuhei Yoshida talked to lots of reporters and gave a little bit more information out there so that we can know a little bit more what we're going to be getting into with this new console. And one of the biggest stories that came out was that the PS4 is not going to be backwards compatible, something that wasn't necessarily talked about in the conference, but people were unsure this is going to be a thing, and it is now confirmed. You will not be able to play your PS3 disc on there, and the bigger news is that you won't actually be able to play your downloaded content on the PS4 either. That has a lot to do, obviously, with the cell processor and the PS3 not being compatible probably with the PS4, but still interesting nonetheless because we've been starting to get more into a digital age right now where a lot more of this stuff is way more popular, and I was a little disappointed, but necessarily not extremely surprised because this is going to be a new system, and they usually do this a lot. You don't really see the old consoles going into the new systems with backwards compatibility. But what do you guys think regarding that? Is it something that you were surprised to see, or were you not necessarily that upset about this fact coming out?
Well, I'm an Xbox guy, and there's already almost no backwards compatibility. And like, there's a few games you can play that are backwards compatible, but even though I can for a few games, I don't, just because I'll just play the newer games, which are usually better. And yeah.
I mean, I usually keep my console, my older console too, so if I ever need to go back and play a game or ever want to go back and play a game, I can. And I think with the new kind of more interconnectivity of these consoles, there's going to be still time to get your trophies or get whatever you want from them if that's the thing that you're interested in. But at the same time as well, it wasn't that necessarily a big deal for the games. I was just a little bit more surprised that the downloaded games are not going to be on the console. Is that a big deal for you, Mike, or is that something that you're not really that much into caring about either?
Not really. Usually when I play download games, I play it once, and that's kind of it. You know, it's not like I've invested thousands of dollars like I have with the disc games, which kind of pisses me off, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, would you, if you're going to get a PS4, would you sell your PS3 to put the money towards that? Is that something that you do, or do you keep your older consoles?
No, I'll probably sell the PS3.
Yeah,
I'm probably going to sell it within a few months now.
Yeah, because
once they announce a release date for the PS4 or whatever.
I think a lot of people do that too. So that's where you get into that thing where I think some people really enjoy, especially if you're not putting hundreds of dollars into your gaming experience. If you enjoy games but you don't play them a lot, and you only have a couple games that are really important to you, I think that this can hit home with some of those people a little bit more because maybe they sell their console, but they still want to keep a couple of their favorite games around because they want to play them on the next generation. And one of the big things as well, when you get that new console, that is a big, large sum of money that you're dropping down. You got to buy this console, probably get a controller as well, and you want to pick up a new game too. You're looking at like a $700, price tag on all that usually, or not necessarily that high, but you're looking at a lot of money spent, and I think it softens the blow a little bit if you can have a couple extra games at home to start playing, even if you played them before. For me, again, I'll probably keep my PS3, but at the same time, I can understand where that might be rubbing some people the wrong way. But let's jump into price with the PS4 as well. One of the other things that Shuhei Yoshida talked a little bit about is that the PS4 has a lot of power in it. It's going to be a really powerful console, and there's rumors that the 360 is going to be a powerful or not the 360, but the new Xbox is going to be very powerful as well, but it might not necessarily be the same type of power. So there's a lot of consideration out there that Sony is going to have to match the price if they're going to get people interested in their console, and Shuhei kind of matched that up as well by saying that they think that they're going to be able to be comparative and be competitive with their price. And is that a big deal for you guys? For me, like last generation, we saw the 360 come out and it was way cheaper. It came out earlier too, which is the big reason why I got a 360 right away. But is price difference between these two consoles going to be a big deal? Or is it necessarily just what the consoles bring to the table?
I think it's definitely a smart move for them to say that they're flexible with the price of the PS3. I think that's a big reason a lot of people didn't buy a PS3 when it first came out. They were like $700. They're way up there, way more expensive than the Xbox, and it's probably a reason why they lost out and weren't the winners of this generation of consoles.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you look at those prices initially, and we talked about the big sum there, and you get up to an even higher price of the PS3 when you were buying it at that time. Hopefully, I think with them being maybe a little bit more competitive, that would get more people interested in buying a PS4 as well. Do you have anything to say on that, Mike? Is there really any interest from you from a point of like, we look back, let's say, for us, we were, teenagers when we were playing the PS3 and the 360 when it initially came out. So money was a little bit more scarce. It wasn't necessarily like you were going and you're like, I'm gonna buy 1,000 games or something like that. You went and you were very frugal with your money. It wasn't like you could just do whatever you want. I feel a little bit more freedom now where I can buy both consoles at launch if I want to. I'm probably not going to do that because it's still a lot of money to spend. But is it that big of a deal for Sony to be competitive with Microsoft for their price point?
Yeah, it's a big deal. And those people don't always have $800 to spend on video games, right?
No,
so
and
it is going to be a big deal, I think, right off the bat. Maybe a bit later it evens out and stuff, but if they want to be more successful on launch, they're going to have to try and match Xbox's price as best as they can.
There's also the thing they got to think about too, that these consoles are probably coming out in the holiday of 2013. You have a bunch of parents going out there, and a lot of times parents can be well informed, but usually half the time or even more than that, they're just looking at getting something that they know their child's going to like, but also if the child's kind of like, I want a new console, they might even get a Wii U because they just see it as the cheapest one available. Sometimes parents go and do stuff like that where they're just not necessarily, they're not really in the know of what's going on with that. And I mean, if Sony comes out and they have a console that's way more expensive than Microsoft, then I think that could really hurt them with the actual family market with people buying consoles at Christmas time. Because, I mean, if you're coming off a console that's $100 more, then that's something that's going to deter a lot of people from actually getting the Sony console over the Microsoft one.
Yeah, I think before we make any calls on this, though, we still need to see what the prices are going to be. And they are still talking about, there's that rumor of 2 price SKUs.
Yeah.
So that could be a thing as well.
There's a possibility for both of them, too. And another thing we'll touch on a little bit is that they showed off if you want to even call it the PlayStation Eye, the new one that looks a lot like a Kinect in the video for the announcement of the PS4. I want to talk a little bit when we get to our question of the week about the new Xbox, what type of compatibility these are going to have with the systems and how big of a deal they're going to actually be. Now, one of the other things that was interesting from what he was talking about was the price point for games. And games have been pretty much $59.99 for the past 10, 12 years. They used to be a lot more sporadic back in the 90s and the 80s where you'd buy games that were way more expensive and way cheaper, and we see portable games at a cheaper price nowadays. But there was actually Watch Dogs that was on for pre-order on Amazon for $99, which had some people a little bit up in arms, a little bit scared about the price of next generation games. And Yoshida came out and said that games are going to be still free to play, 99 cents games, you'll still be able to play those, and then you'll have your regular games too, and then your downloadable games in the middle. Do you think it would be actually a good idea for consoles in the future to have maybe a little bit more expensive games to actually benefit the companies making them? Because we see so many people being laid off lately. Is that something that they should take into consideration, or is that like scary to do because that would probably really scare away not developers, but people actually buying the games? Like, if they were more expensive than $59.99, would you go buy a game like Watch Dogs or something like that?
Well, if I felt the game was worth it, right? Like, if a game's gonna be $100 every time you buy it, I'm not gonna be buying a lot of those games I'm on the fence about, right? It's gonna have to be a game that I'm confident that I really want to play this game.
That AAA title.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be those sort of titles, or I'm not going to be buying them at launch. I'm going to be waiting to see reviews and stuff like that.
One thing that they could do that would be interesting, I'm not necessarily saying it's a good idea for them to just jack up the price of it, but I mean, if a developer really thought they had a grade A game, like a AAA game that they know people are going to buy, if they went out with a more expensive game and were able to put more content into that, that'd be actually something that I might be able to get behind a little bit. But if you have a game that's, let's say, not necessarily a AAA title, I don't have a good one on right now in my mind, but let's say there's one that you're kind of on the fence about. Like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance came out last week, and I wasn't necessarily 100% sold on buying that game, but it looked fun, it looked interesting. maybe if those guys came up with a game like that and had like a $40 mark or a $50 mark versus like a $60 mark, they came out at a lower price and said, yeah, this game is like an actual retail game, but it is cheaper. Maybe they could actually get people more interested in buying those. And then you had kind of like this 3-tiered system where you have the real downloadable games. You have the 4-tier system. You have the free-to-play, you have the downloadable games. Then you have like the mid-level where it's like $40. You get a good game, you get a retail game, but it's you're going into it and you're saying, this is not my AAA title. And then you have like 5 games a year, like your Assassin's Creed 3, your Watch Dogs, your The Last of Us, where these are titles that you'd say, I'm willing to go spend $79.99 on this. Would that be a model that you get behind, Gage? Or
I could probably get behind that. Just think about it. There's not many mid-tier games. Like there used to be a lot of them, especially coming out of like Activision stuff. So I think I'd be interested in that. I just don't think that jacking up the price to $100 is a smart idea.
That's a little bit much.
Especially because a lot of the kids who still get their parents to buy games for them, parents aren't going to be wanting to spend like $100 per game, and I think that would probably decrease their sales a little bit.
I think what you're going to see too more is a lot more of those microtransaction type things where you can buy a little axe or whatever, right?
Well, you get that. We see that more and more nowadays where you have games that...
I think it's going to become even more prominent too with the next generation. I think it's going to be a pretty big market for PlayStation 4 and
that's already
Xbox, right?
Dead Space 3, and that's a full retail game.
Yeah.
I don't even think that in general, though, but I mean, you look at your AAA titles like Borderlands, and again, I'm touching on Assassin's Creed 3, and another one that's going to be coming out soon that's going to have a season pass is Tomb Raider, I believe, is going to have a season pass. These are games that these developers are asking $59.99 for the release of their game, but then they're also saying $20 more for all the DLC.
Yeah.
So you're actually, if you're that into that game, you're paying $79.99. You're kind of in that range of what we're talking about for that AAA title if you really want to be into that game. And in a way, that's actually kind of a good idea because then you make it accessible for people that just want to play the game. But if you have your hardcore fans of that series and they want to see every little detail you can bring out, then they give you the option to do that. But the one thing I think would be good at having like a mid-level range for prices is that we're talking about raising the prices of these games, and by doing that, I think right now we see the $59.99 price is killing middling developers. You have your big-time developers, but people like THQ are shutting down their offices because they make cool games, they make good games, but they're not at the same level. They're not. I don't look at any of their games and say that those are AAA games.
Well, Saints Row, I mean,
I guess Saints Row kind
of. That's on the fence of a AAA game.
But they come out with something like that, right? And then they maybe come out with a lower price. I think that could help them a little bit. And actually, make maybe middling developers a little bit more of a place where people can actually go to make games. But we're going to jump now from the PS4 to other news, and there's a lot of news, obviously, about the next generation going on right now. Not too much about the Xbox this week, because I guess they're kind of letting things smooth out a little bit, and it's probably a good idea for them to do that. But one kind of interesting story came out that a new domain registered by Microsoft this week hints at a potential Xbox event similar to the PS4. And the website that was released, or the domain that they registered, was xboxevent.com. And this was registered by EventCore, which is the company that's actually done events for them in the past. They did the E3 last year. You had Usher dancing on stage. So I don't know if that's the best person to have doing that, but still, they're working on something, and inside sources within the industry are kind of saying that April might be the time for us to see an event like that. Is April probably a good date for them? Is that something like should Microsoft hit right away? Should they? Right now, PS4, people are talking about, it's obviously going to quiet down because that's what happens. People hear news, no more news comes out, people, stop talking about something like that. But you saw the fever pitch last week where everybody was talking about this new system potentially. Should Microsoft wait? Should they really let this calm down? Come out in like April or May right before E3? Or is it in their best interest to do something like in a couple weeks in March?
I think March or April is a good bet. That gives it a little bit of time to cool down, but it's still like not forgettable. Like people will still be talking about the PS4 a little bit, and then it'll give them a couple months to maybe get some things together, get more get it more close to being finished, more games that are ready to be shown at like E3, things like that.
If they do that too, then they also I think they need to come out, like you said. April is actually probably a pretty good date, because then the PS4 talks are dying down, but it's still in people's minds. It hasn't been a complete drought of information on these new consoles. And then if Microsoft does it well, then they kind of say to people, look at the PS4 event, look what we can do, and then they make people want to buy a new Xbox rather than a PS4. Do you think it's a good idea for them to wait though, Mike, or would you rather see what Xbox has right now?
I think it's probably a better idea to wait. I think that the closer that they wait until the day they want to release, so the shorter waiting period will give them a better advantage, because people will be more excited about it. It'll be at the front of everyone's mind instead of,
Yeah, and
it dying down. Get the excitement going, and while it's exciting for everybody, while all this news is coming out, then release the console, right? I mean, they're not going to be releasing it until holiday. Right?
Yeah, and one of the things that's been talked about a little bit about Microsoft is that people are saying that they might release the console earlier than the PS4, like in September possibly. And that's rumors, that's not definite information. But what they could do, having this event, let's say late April, they get people excited about this new Xbox. Then there's that little bit of a layoff between the conference and E3, but people are still talking about it, right? And there's like that small layoff between the two events, and then bang, you have E3 again, where people are talking about this new system, and then right away that in E3 it's like only 3 months away. They show something off at PAX, maybe PAX in Seattle in September, get people continually excited. There's Gamescom as well in the summer in Germany. There's all these spots they can continually hit and keep a fever pitch going to the new Xbox, which I think would really help them out. And I mean, we still have to look at Xbox as being in the driver's seat of this. Even though PS4 had a really good conference, I think that Xbox they're the company, Microsoft's the company that people are probably going to buy the system from next generation.
They're the company to beat for sure.
And I think that they have to come out and really show people why they want their console, but they also are in the driver's seat, so they can wait. They can really build this momentum towards the release of the console. But let's move away from this though and just go into actual game news. And one of the interesting stories that came out this week was that Gary Whitta, who's one of the contributing writers on The Walking Dead, the video game series, he was on Up and Noon on IGN talking to Greg Miller, and he talked a little bit about the Walking Dead series and how there's going to be obviously a season 2. We already know that, but he hinted at the fact there's going to be possibly a little bit of a bridge between the two games, which is kind of an interesting thing to know, and this is the first time anybody's actually talked about this. Now, Mike is actually in the 3rd episode, so we're not going to get too deep into the details of the game, but me and Gage have played the game, and I'm actually pretty excited at the prospect of that. Would that be something that you would definitely play?
It would definitely be something I'd play. Walking Dead was pretty much my top game last year. I think it was the best experience I had. So anything Walking Dead I'm going to consume.
Definitely. It was one of those things for me that I did not play it right away. Like, it was a weird circumstance because originally I thought I'm going to wait till there's a retail release, and then with PlayStation Plus they gave me the first 2 episodes of the game for free. And it was kind of a weird psychological thing because you never know if PlayStation Plus they're going to give you more stuff for free. So I wanted to play this series, I wanted to get into it, but they didn't release any more of that. And I think that was kind of like them pushing you and be like, hey, you got these games, now go play the rest of them. But when all 5 were out and people were really talking about the series, that's when I was like, okay, I need to get into this. And I played it before the end of the year last year, and I really enjoyed the series, like you said. If not my most favorite game last year, it was definitely up there because it's a really kind of a cool thing. And we could talk about this a little bit, that I think, Mike, you can agree with this as well, that it's different and it really kind of harkens back to older games in the way that it tells a story, it gets you involved, but it's also not necessarily you controlling this great adventure or anything like that. You're just kind of going through the paces of this character.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching a TV show that you interact with, really. And which is kind of interesting. It's not so as dull as that sounds, though. It's quite involved. You get pretty emotionally attached to some characters and stuff, and it's a pretty good game.
they give you like the episodes are the right amount as well. That was the part.
Yeah, it is too. It is the right amount. It feels long enough, but it doesn't feel too long. It's not like you're trudging through this story. It keeps you entertained.
Definitely. And the one thing I wish I would have done when the game came out is I wish I would have played them in episodic content.
And had that break.
Because I heard people talking about that, where they're like, they played one episode and they were like, I want to play more. But they had to wait like 4 or 5 weeks for a next episode to come out. And the whole anticipation for them to go play that next episode heightened the experience up. And I heard a lot of people that really enjoyed it that way. I tried to play it, like, I took breaks between each episode. Like, if I wouldn't play them back to back, but I'd, like, wait, like, at least, you know, till the evening or, like, the next day. Just, like, have a little bit of a break. Because it's really cool how they did that. Where each episode you open up, it's like, last time on The Walking Dead. And it shows all your experiences. And, Mike, you were talking a little bit about how cool it is, too, how they show at the end of each episode your decisions and how they react. And,
to other people.
And it's interesting because then you get to see what you did really kind of equates to what other people did, or how you're like some crazy person that thought of all these you know, decisions that really turned out to be kind of suicidal, like madman, and you know, everybody else is logical, and you're like, for me, I killed the crazy lady in the woods in episode 2, and I found out that only like 12% of people did that, and I started questioning if I was like a normal person and if I should be locked away in some crazy cell. But yeah, no, it was really cool how they did that. Got you involved in that, and I guess maybe next episode we've got Mike on. We'll talk a little bit about more to not really get into too much, but then we can get his opinion of what he thought about, and we can shove around ideas on the whole conclusion of it. Maybe talk a little bit more about this bridging of the gaps that we could see in this next installment into the series. Now, a game that is coming out next week, and actually probably going to be the first one they're going to do a spoiler cast for, Tomb Raider, the reboot of the series. Got a lot of reviews coming out this week. They came out about a week early before the actual release of the game. And usually that's a good sign for games because it's all up to the developers to choose when they want their reviews to come out. And Crystal Dynamics let their game, and the publisher Square Enix let reviews come out this week. And they've been largely positive, and that's actually a really good sign. I'm really excited for this game. And going to the Metacritic score, 86 over 33 reviews, which is actually a really high score. You don't see stuff that high that often. And some notable people that gave ratings to the game: Game Informer giving a 9.3, IGN giving a 9.1, Polygon giving a 9.0, GameSpot with an 8.5, and then Rev3 Games on the low end of the scale with a 3 out of 5. So I usually try and keep my expectations down for a game like this because it's something that I think will be cool. But we talked about the sleeping dogs effect.
Yeah.
And this is just in our passing, not on last episode, but how sometimes you can, you know, be excited for a game, but you have really kind of like lowered expectations. And then every once in a while you find a game like that where you pick up the game because you think it looks cool. You're not expecting that much out of it. But then you start playing the game, you're like, wow, this is a really sweet game. And for whatever reason, what that does to you is that makes that experience all that more pleasurable. And for this case, I was trying to go blank on this game, trying to keep my media input and, you know, really what I was getting from this to a minimum because I wanted to experience the game without really knowing what the story was about, because I thought it was a cool concept. But these reviews obviously show that this game has a lot of potential, and I'm excited to play it. Gage, you said you're probably going to play the game too?
Yeah, I had almost no information on what the Tomb Raider game was going to be like before maybe last week. And then I saw a trailer for it on an ad for a YouTube video, I'm pretty sure, and I was like, that actually looks kind of cool. Maybe I'll pick that up. So I started looking some stuff up, and it looks pretty interesting. It kind of looks like a little bit like Uncharted, which isn't a bad thing.
Well, Uncharted looks like
Tomb Raider is the original Uncharted.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, you get those fanboys every once in a while, like, this is an Uncharted game. And you're like, no idiot, this is a Tomb Raider game. But what about you, Mike? Are you interested in this game, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna play it. I really like those sort of games where, so. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be fun too, because I mean, it's a third-person game. You get to experience a cool adventure that it can be pretty generic sometimes. Even Uncharted games you played in the past, the story is pretty basic. Go to this lost city.
Enjoy it though. It's still
you have
an
fun.
enjoyable thing.
It's a popcorn flick, pretty much, and you get to experience yourself. And there's bows in this game, and bows are the new hottest thing in the video game industry. So
there's a lot of bows if you think about it recently.
Crysis 3 got bows.
Has no right to have bows.
No, But it's a super powered bow, and it's like awesome. But why do you have it in your game? Because you have like
gun.
Yeah, why do I not have a gun? I haven't played Crisis 3, so I can't say. But I've heard funny things about that gun. Not that gun, that bow.
You should do some sort of list with all the games that had bows last year.
Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 had a bow.
Yeah. And they did it right.
Yeah, that was a game that I was like...
That was actually pretty good with that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Definitely. That was one that I enjoyed.
It gave another dimension to the gameplay, too, in that game. Right? It allowed you to be more stealthy instead of just running in and shooting like Far Cry 2.
I really enjoy like games that do that, too.
Yeah.
I've yet to play Dishonored, but that's one that I really want to get into because of the fact that you have... I love games that give you the option of saying, you can go in and be just like crazy... all offense, kill as many people as you want, or if you want, you can go behind and, you know, try and be as quiet as possible, which for me is always kind of a cool option to do because not a lot of games do it that often. Another one was Deus Ex I never played, and I had that one sitting around. So
does that one have a bow?
No bows. That one's no bows.
Assassin's Creed had a bow.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, we could just write like that's 5 games right there in the past like 6 months. Is God of War gonna have a bow? Probably not, but
God of War did have a bow. In one of them, I can't remember which one. He had like a big and it would shoot like electric arrows or something like that.
So the watch is on. You heard it here first. Does God of War Ascension have a bow in it? Oh, Gears of War Judgment. Do you have a bow?
Yes, torque bow.
Are you serious?
They've had the torque bow in there since Gears of War 1.
They're classic bow. Yeah. They're not. They're hipster bow.
I was going to say they had bows before it was cool.
Okay, so we'll let you guys know what we think of those games simply on the fact that they have a bow or not like actually how good they are. Just precisely on the fact that they have a bow. Play it. No bow. Pass the game. So yeah, stay tuned for the spoiler cast. I'll probably come a couple weeks after the game because we all got to play it, but that'll be a separate episode from the normal podcast we do. We'll get into the game, talk about the nitty-gritty details of the plot, and get your guys' questions in as well about what you thought about it, and really just hash out what our experience was with the game, our final verdict, our own little review on what we thought about it, and then really just talking about it in an environment where we can just really say whatever we want without putting the spoiler tag and being all worried about what people say about that. So we'll jump into that later on. But the last piece of news that just happened right before we jumped into this podcast today is that rumors about a new Assassin's Creed game have surfaced. And Mike here, our go-to Assassin's Creed expert, the Master Assassin, he is skeptical on this is actually real or not. So we're going to put the word rumored here so you guys know this is not 100% guaranteed as of yet. But on Kotaku, there's been a poster that's been leaked showing off this game called Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. We've already heard that there's a new Assassin's Creed game coming out at the end of this year, so it's already going to happen. We just don't know what the environment is. We also know it's going to be a new character and a new setting, so this is interesting information to come out of it, that there looks to be a new assassin in the picture, and it's very got like a pirate vibe to it. It seems like it's going to be in the Caribbean. And what's interesting about that is that obviously we saw the naval combat be a new thing in the last Assassin's Creed, so it makes sense in a way because they got this new engine that they barely used, and I mean, for them to use it probably in this would make a lot of sense because then they use the same things that they've just created, right?
Yeah, and I didn't think that they used that mechanic in the game to its full potential either.
No.
Because it was very just, you're there and you're shooting stuff was really what it was. It was still a lot of fun to do, but I thought they could have done more with it.
A lot of times developers share assets as well between games, so I almost get the feeling like, you know, these guys that were working on this game said to Assassin's Creed 3 guys, like, hey, we've been working on this, maybe you guys want to have this a part of your game, because in a weird way, it's a part of the game, right? The naval combat in Assassin's Creed 3 is a part of the game, but it's almost just kind of like a side thing.
It is.
You almost get the feeling, I'm being very facetious by saying this, but you almost get the feeling like it's just kind of put into the game in a way where there's a couple missions that are a part of the story, but they're not like integral parts except for that one mission at the later on in the game. So I'm really like I really enjoyed the naval combat, and I want to see what they could do with this, but I am a bit skeptical on the whole place that they're going to, because the Caribbean is different. It is not the same environment that we're last in, but it's not like this radical change where we're going to Indo, China or whatever, and some crazy or Cold War Russias, where I was kind of thinking that'd be a cool one to see. Those are all stuff that'd be like completely different. They'd have to create a completely new engine to do that. This is more logical because they're in the same area of development. But I wanted to get your opinion, Mike. What did you think originally? Just like, I know this is just rumor, but what would you think of this game if this was actually real?
Well, I have to disagree with you on the environment thing. I think going with the Caribbean pirate thing is quite different than doing an American Revolution, right? There's not going to be any snow in the Caribbean, so...
I guess that's right. What I meant was that you already worked on the naval stuff. So.
I think it could really be interesting in the way they incorporate an assassin into a whole pirate scheme.
Yeah.
So they could do a lot of different stuff with that. I think there could be a lot of different aspects to the game that they haven't done before. So it could be interesting.
I have to say, this is the least excited I've been for a Assassin's Creed setting in a while. I didn't really like... I never played Revelations, and when I saw the trailer, I'm like, I'm not going to play this, because I don't want to play as old Ezio in Constantinople, which I just pronounced wrong.
That's good.
Just say
And,
close enough.
It's way easier.
Okay, but I don't know. I'm not really super excited for a Caribbean setting. I'm still going to probably play it, because I do like the Assassin's Creed games. But I don't know. I would have preferred, like you said, Cold War Russia, or even China. I would have much preferred maybe, like...
China would have been a really interesting...
The Templars were
really
samurais,
cool.
or something like that.
That's Japan.
Well,
Getting races mixed up since episode 3. Checkpoint achieved. But yeah, it's one of those things that I agree with you, Mike. You are right that the Caribbean is a different setting. What I meant a little bit was that, you know what, even Cold War Russia, they could take the snow physics that they're working on, kind of shoehorn that.
Were awesome.
Yeah, I really hope they do more of that too. But I just think that they've worked on the naval combat, and I think this is really a smart step for them to take, because they already have this new thing that they've created. They didn't really use it that much, so creating a game where they really kind of make it a probably a big part of the game is a smart thing for them to do. I'm just really interested to see what the whole basis of the story is going to be. Are you a pirate? There's a lot of, obviously...
Well, you're an assassin.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm going to call it now. You'll be an assassin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good prediction, guys.
You might hang out with pirates, but you're an assassin.
There might be Templars.
Yeah.
There maybe.
There might be.
There might be some terrible futuristic plot twist.
Could there be an Animus, or...
I don't know, because right before they were going to release Assassin's Creed 3, they were getting sued by this guy about the whole Animus thing, so...
They should
It fell through. The lawsuit fell through, but... I don't know, maybe it's a sign that it's a really dumb game idea.
Well, what they could do, they could just completely throw away the Animus idea and be like...
They could, because Desmond's apparently dead now.
Yeah.
So.
They could just be like, back here, this is what happened, and then you experience it. Because for me, the story is about going into the Animus. I did not care what was going on in the future.
I don't think anybody did.
No.
The only part I cared about was I got to run around on top of, like, tall skyscrapers in number 3 as Desmond.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun, but the parts where I'm like, I have to go down and, like, grab these keys that look like cubes and put them in things. I was just like, I just want to go run around as Connor and stab people.
Yeah, and there's not too much you can do with a wrist knife when guys have, like, submachine guns and stuff like that. There's not... you can't really justify a futuristic Assassin's Creed game, not with keeping the type of gameplay that they have, right?
I wanted a futuristic Assassin's Creed. Like, when I played Assassin's Creed 1 and 2, I thought logical step for number 3 was going to be futuristic Assassin's Creed, but I realized over time that I actually didn't want that, because the story developed.
You don't want that, no.
And any, like, kind of wanting to have a role like that is going to be completely filled by Watch Dogs, which isn't Assassin's Creed, but has that kind of hit vibe that you're going to be able to do stuff.
It still seems like it has that feel to it, right?
Yeah.
I think they're running on the same engine.
Well, it is Ubisoft, that's probably...
Yeah, so...
And what I mean by that is I wanted to be in present day with the ability to not necessarily assassinate people, but just kind of like I like the vibe of Watch Dogs where you're this outer figure that is solving problems of other people, and not in like a superhero way, but in the way of just like your goal in
behind
this,
the scenes sort of thing.
And that's what Assassin's Creed is, because you're an assassin. You're going into these events. That's the linchpin of the story, is that you're, you know, influencing history. That was what you were doing the whole time.
But you're not recognized for it.
No, you're never recognized for it. And I think that's what Watch Dogs is going to do really cool. It's going to fulfill that kind of want of seeing that out of a futuristic setting. Yeah. So that is it for news today. But let's jump into question of the week, which is something we're going to do from time to time when we have a topic that we can really talk about. And this one is still about the next generation consoles. We saw the PS4 last week, and with rumors of the new Xbox obviously being extremely apparent right now, and the possibility of them doing a press conference or a big media event soon, I wanted to ask you guys, what does Microsoft have to do with their new console to up Sony, make their console the better console, and really show that they're still the dominant one? Because, I mean, again, we've already said the Xbox, when it comes out, is probably already going to be ahead of Sony. The only way that it's not going to be is if Microsoft comes out, shoots himself in the foot, makes their console super Kinect oriented and completely alienates the core audience, and says, oh, also it's like $450. That's the world that I see that console sucking compared to the PS4. But in pretty much any other circumstance, I see that console doing pretty good. I wanted to ask you guys, though, for you, what does Microsoft have to do with their console to make it the one that you want to buy next generation?
They pretty much need to take all the features that Sony already has in their PS4 that they confirmed, like the share button and the downloading while you play. They pretty much need to have those, and they need to have maybe something of their own too. Maybe mess around with the controller a little bit or get a new one. And no Kinect. Just let it die.
Kinect's going to be there.
I know. I already know Kinect's going to be there.
I really hate that.
But I really hope it's not something that the Kinect needs to be. You need to have a Kinect. You need to be connected to the internet.
I gotta say, the one thing that we're gonna have to see...
Damn it, Wii, you ruined video games.
I wish I was an assassin so I could go back in time and kill the Wii. That's pretty much my one, like, that's the game I want to play on.
They should make an Assassin's Creed game.
Assassin's Creed Wii, but not playing on the Wii.
Ubisoft versus Nintendo.
I wonder if they'd put that on the Wii U.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that we need to be prepared for this, because I'm almost positive that every single new Xbox that's going to come out is going to be bundled with a Kinect.
Yeah, and that's fine. Just don't make it a huge part of every gaming experience.
I don't think we'll see that. But, like, in your experience of, like, using your Xbox, from what I've just heard, like, with the specs, and again, all rumors and stuff, but what I've heard from the actual details that are going to be in this console, it seems like they're putting a lot of technology into audio recognition, facial recognition, you know, the actual hardware being able to recognize this and compute it at a right pace, because the Kinect is a cool toy, but it really doesn't, you know, compute at the right level to really recognize people when you play. It recognizes you, but you can do weird stuff, and it thinks, oh, that's the dance move there. You're doing that right. But I think that we're going to see, and the one part I was talking about a little bit earlier I want to touch on too, is I think that we're going to see both consoles come into the fold with more heavy facial recognition, more voice recognition, stuff where it's actually reading you, not necessarily like you going up and putting your eye in front of the Kinect and it going, access granted, Gage Paul. But
I'd want that. That'd be cool. That'd be better than a password.
Yes. Well,
isn't there some computers that do that, where it has to see your face to turn on or something like that?
Yeah, there was one I had on my phone, my old phone I used to have, is that I hold it up to my face and that's how it would open up. But it was kind of really shitty, because like it was like in dark place or anything like that, it'd be like, you are not Bryden. Go away.
Plus, people probably think you're weird on the bus when
you're
you
just
put it
like...
up. Because usually it's the front-facing camera,
yeah,
and you can see the screen, so people probably think you're taking selfies on the bus.
I do that anyway, but officially... no, it's one of those things that the PS4 apparently is going to do recognition with the controller and with you, and there's a bunch of different stuff going on with that, but I think that we're going to see that with the new Xbox. But I agree with you guys. I don't want... Sony came out and they talked about games. They said this is a gaming console. I think one of the things that Microsoft could do that hurt themselves is they don't talk about games. They go You know how they've done previous E3s where it's like, and here's, you know, famous footballer playing Madden with Kinect and spending 10 minutes doing that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Usher doing a Just Dance game and stuff like that is not what the core audience wants to see. They want to see first-party games that are really cool.
We don't want them to come out and go, the Xbox is not just for gaming, it's also for all your social media.
Yeah. Well, they're going to do that, though. I mean, like...
PlayStation kind of did that.
They did that...
A little bit, not to that extreme.
They did it the right way, though.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think Xbox can do it the right way, too, but still appeal to everybody. They have the ability to be the better console because they can, you know... They've already got everybody hooked with their console as it is. And they've got all these, you know... families hooked as well with the Kinect, starting to get that into it. They don't need to talk about that, though, because that's not the people that are going to be watching that event.
No.
The people that are watching that event are the gamers, the fans that want to see what this console can do for them. So I think that what they can do to really screw Sony over is by matching their conference and one-upping them by doing the exact same thing, showing us new games, showing us games like the new Forza, the new Halo. I know the Halo 4 just came out, but stuff that they want to see. Not necessarily my cup of tea per se, but just really speaking to the gamer and really speaking to the person that wants to play games on their console. But for you, Mike, I know that you're a PS3 gamer right now. In the flip side, because we're talking to Gage here, he is already a part of the Xbox ecosystem and probably is going to be more interested in buying a new Xbox because of that fact. For you, though, on the opposite side of the table, as a PS3 gamer, probably going to be going to the PS4. What would Xbox do to make you say, well, that looks stupid. Why would I want to do that when I could do it on my Xbox?
I don't know. I think with these two consoles, I think there's potential for them to be a lot different than one another. Just because of the way what we saw from PlayStation 4. With the last two generations, with Xbox and PS2 and PS3 and 360, there wasn't too many differences really in...
The actual design of it, right?
With the designs of the games and what you can do on the system, right?
Yeah, it's like PS2 and Xbox weren't that much different graphically. You could look at a game that was cross-platform, and it'd be hard to tell which one it was actually for. And I feel the same way about this generation towards the end of it. At the beginning, PS3 did look nicer, but now that people are knowing what to do with the firmware and their limitations, all the games kind of look really nice, and there's no big step up from either system.
There's no special features to either system either, right? Where you pretty much get the same experience, and they might be going to a place now where they're essentially going to be going in different branching paths. So where you had the Wii, it went on its own little tangent, right?
It's like the Xbox 360 and the PS3 are like graduating high school, and the Wii's just like in special ed, just eating paste.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Wii last generation, and it went on its own branching path where it tried to do its own thing, and it was extremely popular, which I think has kind of played into the minds of both Sony and Microsoft, where they saw that they tried to do their own things like the Move and the Kinect. Not as popular, but the Kinect is still something that Microsoft's trying to push, and obviously Sony's going to go with their own, you know, whatever plan they've got with the Eye currently, right? But you look at this generation, and I think that there was not as much branching that we actually saw, but you can see the lines kind of being drawn there where the Wii U now is in the same plane where it's still in its own little stratosphere where it's trying to do its own thing. It's gone HD, but really it isn't that close to, you know, what the new consoles are going to be like. But the more interesting thing that I really want to see is I think that Sony very well is, you know, going out and saying that they're going to be social, but they're also going to have a gaming console, and that Microsoft is going to be shooting a little bit more for the family-oriented, you know,
well,
group
yeah,
there.
It seems like there's like 3 types of Xbox users right now. There's the actual gamers, there's the teenagers who play COD, and that's about it. And then there's like the family, people who get a Kinect, and like their kids play it.
And that's growing too, and I think they're really going to want to tap into that, and I think that's why we're going to see a little bit more of a casual console. But moving on from that, let's talk a little bit about what we've been playing this week. I'll start off with you, Gage. You've been playing Dead Space over the past couple weeks, and you're now into Dead Space 3.
Yep.
How is that experience going for you?
It is a Dead Space game. It is definitely not the strongest of the 3.
Is it a Dead Space game?
It is a Dead Space game. I don't like some of the changes they made. Like, they took out... How you used to save is you used to go up to a wall, that was a save point, and you'd be like, okay, well, I'll save now. But now it's checkpoints. Well, no, there'd be like a spot in the wall, you just don't run up to walls.
Hello, wall. Save game, thanks.
No, but now there's checkpoints, and they don't happen as often as I would like sometimes. Sometimes we'll get like 3 checkpoints in like a minute,
Is it the benches that plays the checkpoints, or are those just crafting areas?
I'm not sure how it works exactly. I think those are also checkpoints, but a lot of the times I'm finding I'm skipping benches because they're putting them a lot more often, and I'm just like, I don't need to. I've not collected any resources, so I'm just gonna skip this.
Yeah.
And,
how long are you into the game?
I'm a couple hours in. I'm like probably halfway through just in chapters, but
Okay.
I think it's gonna decrease in the amount of time because those first 5 chapters are like an hour. You go through those really quickly. And another thing they've added is resources. So it used to be you'd collect power nodes, and that one power node is good for an upgrade. Now you collect resources, like I think it's like semiconductors, things like that. And you have to combine all those, and some things will be like they'll cost a lot of semiconductors, but some things will cost like a bunch of tungsten, I think it's called. And you got to collect those, and now they have microtransactions. So you can just buy for like 400 points, you get that, and you get a weapons part.
Does it feel natural? Like, I mean, can you play the game, not touch the microtransactions, and still feel like you're having a good experience?
Yeah, you probably can. I immediately was like, I'm going to buy the doubler and the thing that makes me collect resources faster, just because I might as well, and I'm impatient.
Yes.
But,
that's what it's there for, though. Is,
yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with microtransactions, but for people that just want to, speed up their experience or have some sort of gratitude from the beginning rather than gaining that over time, that gives you the option to do that if you want to.
Yeah, and it's cheap. I just bought it because I had leftover points that weren't enough to get a full arcade game, so I'm like, might as well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be buying any resource packs. I'll collect those by myself. And you can always... What they've done in this one is when you save, like you can save and quit, but that doesn't save where you were. It just saves like your inventory and everything you have. So if you continue the story, you'll have all those things you just got playing through that maybe half checkpoint or whatever, half chapter, but you won't be as far as you were.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't feel as much like a Dead Space game. The co-op kind of ruins it, and the side missions aren't very scary.
Yeah. But you're still enjoying it, though.
I'm still having fun. Like, I really like the Dead Space games. It's just, it is the weakest of them.
Okay, I was going to ask that comparatively.
Yeah.
But let us know how that goes for you, because you still have quite a bit, obviously, to go through the game and see if that gets better or worse. Because I've heard, I don't mean to dampen your day on the whole Dead Space, but I've heard that the beginning of the game is the better part.
Yeah, I can see how that could be true. It's unfortunate. The story's also not as strong in this one. Like, the person that of you were playing co-op that you'd be playing co-op with is just kind of like a douchebag frat boy almost. Like, because in the last one, you leave with a girl, and then you date the girl in between, and now you've gone kind of like, I'm crazy. So she breaks up with you, and she dates that guy, and Isaac's just really upset about it.
Yeah. Well, I hate how games do that to you. I mean, I don't really care about the relationship, but it's a story arc, let's say, again, going back to the Uncharted series, where at the end of Uncharted 2, it's assumed that Drake and Elena get together, and then in Uncharted 3, something's gone wrong, and they're upset with each other. And it's like, you go through the game to have some sort of reward from some of the situations you have, and the story arcs are the parts that you're kind of like, you want to see that actually play out. You don't want like some sort of interest or friendship to just be stale for a whole series. You want things to grow, things to mature, people to either turn their back on you or be closer friends because of the situations you're in, because then you feel like you're more a part of the circumstance and the experience. I really hate it when games kind of like, well, we need a part of this story to work more, and then they kind of shoehorn some sort of situation like that in, where they had a relationship at the end of Dead Space 2, but Dead Space 3, things are rocky, and you gotta work at the same thing again from that perspective of the game. Last episode we were talking to Mike about Assassin's Creed 3, the new DLC, and you've now finished it, right?
Yeah, I finished the first episode because it's released in 3 episodes, so I'm done the first episode. It's called Infamy.
How is it?
It's pretty good. It's kind of interesting the way it doesn't really explain why you're doing any of this, really. Why are you hunting George Washington? Because he's a bad guy in the thing, right?
So is it considered like alternate history, or is this...
Well, what it is from what I understand, Connor is no longer Connor. He never was Connor. He's waking up in a dream where he never joined the assassins, and George Washington has gone mad because he's found an apple of Eden.
Yeah.
And it's driven him mad with power. So now he's claimed the United States as a kingdom instead of a republic.
So are you playing as Connor though in this?
You are. You play as Rodan Hagedon.
Okay.
Or Connor, right?
Yeah.
But he's not known as Connor in it. So,
Okay. So
as
it
far
is
as I know,
alternate history then.
It is.
Yeah.
It is very alternate history. Yeah, as far as from what I've read on the online and stuff, it's some sort of dream world that you're in.
Okay. But you've enjoyed it though.
Yeah. There's a couple new interesting gameplay things that really make stealth a bigger part of the game too.
That's cool.
Which is really interesting.
So it mixes it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's not your regular Assassin's Creed. It's kind of like what if Assassin's Creed wasn't trying to be so realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's not as realistic as real history, right?
No, yeah, definitely. But they take it a step further because in the Assassin's Creed games, you know that you're going into historical events and they're obviously skewed so that the assassin can be a part of it.
Yeah, you have like in normal Assassin's Creed games, you don't have superpowers or anything like this. This is kind of more of a fantasy thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting because it gives you another feel to the game.
And it's good too when games do that because then it takes what you enjoyed and puts it in a different circumstance.
Yeah.
But the other game that you've been playing is The Walking Dead, and you're now experiencing that. You asked me earlier this week, should I play Heavy Rain or The Walking Dead? Both are really cool games, but the experience you need.
You were surprised that I haven't played either of those.
No, I wasn't surprised at all because I mean I played The Walking Dead in December, and I was on the bandwagon. I got into it when people started really talking about it as a potential game of the year. I needed to know what this game was all about.
I was into Walking Dead before it was cool.
There you go. See, Gage is the hipster of the group here, but
hipster of the day.
Yeah.
It's a Gage.
One of the things is that the Heavy Rain was the other example where I didn't play that right away too. Those are just games that I heard good things about, gave them a shot, and I enjoyed them. So it was one of those things that my personal recommendation is The Walking Dead over, just because it is a different experience. Heavy Rain's a really different experience too, but it's not, Yeah,
no, I'm gonna end up playing both of them. I'll probably end up playing Heavy Rain right after I finish Walking Dead.
And it's a good one too, because it's kind of like the same field of, touching on the same storylines and stuff.
I think I haven't played both of them, but they're emotionally involved games. You could say.
And they're light on you actually controlling the character too. They're more just telling the story and letting you be a part of it at points.
Yeah.
And so you're on episode 3 now, or you finished episode 3?
I finished episode 3 last night.
So of the 3 episodes thus far, have you enjoyed, what's your enjoyment level from them? Was the 3rd your favorite so far? Or?
Yeah, 3rd was a pretty wild episode. A lot of people die in the 3rd one. So.
It's a really good one. Yeah. And we'll get back to you obviously on that as well. We said earlier on, not going to talk about that much because we want you to have your unchanged experience too. Because I find it hard when people talk about something, even if they're not talking about spoilers, they say, an example, they'll say, well, that ending was really cool, then I have expectations for an ending.
And then it doesn't live up to expectations.
No, so
because whatever you think of is never as good as what is delivered.
Yeah, and it's your own, you go into that experience by yourself and then you share it with other people. And touching back to what we're going to do on the Tomb Raider spoiler cast, that's one of the things that you guys can definitely enjoy something like that, and I'm really excited to do that with us 3 right here. But that's something that you should do after you play the game, because when you go into something like that and you learn everything that you need to know to understand the story before even playing the game, it really does kind of just change the experience, which is usually 10 times better.
From the experience.
Yeah, it's way better when you don't know. And Far Cry was kind of like that too, where I heard Voss was a really good character, but I didn't listen to people a lot on that. I just kind of went into the game, and he really had a big impact on my story because I wasn't expecting him to be.
Yeah, I think I told you that. Sorry, I didn't think of it that way.
It's okay. I look at stuff like that and I kind of say, well, he enjoyed that. That's good. What I mean is when I listen to, let's say, other podcasts or I, read articles and stuff, and then someone's very adamant about, in their score or something, they say, well, the ending wasn't that great, so I gave it less of a score. The whole game, then I'm kind of like...
You're like, why am I playing this if the ending sucks?
Mass Effect 3 was that for me because I did not buy that game right away. I bought it about, maybe 6 weeks later or so. And I knew that everybody was complaining about the ending. So when I went into that ending, I was well aware that I should hate the ending. And I felt really mixed about it. I think that it would have been way better for me if I just went into it not knowing. But because I knew that people hated it, I wanted to like it more. But I still actually didn't like it that much anyway. Yeah. And I'm sorry.
Didn't they try and fix that ending?
They changed the ending, which I thought was very weird from them.
Yeah, that is a weird thing to do.
But yeah, we'll go from that to what I've been getting into this week, and I've kind of just been dabbling around. I haven't really been playing any big games because I'm waiting for Tomb Raider to come out. It's one of those things that, you know, I don't want games to be left hanging around. Like, I try and clean up my stuff because sometimes I get really into bad situations where I have 3 games going or 2 games going, and I'm like, the stories start mixing together, and I'm like, it isn't as good of an experience. But I did play a couple games, and I have actually played since last week. I've actually been playing a lot of games lately. So I did finish BioShock, and that was really cool. We'll talk about that, you know, later on at another point possibly, because Mike is into BioShock right now as well. And the other game I played because of seeing the Killzone Shadowfall trailer was Killzone 2. I've had it sitting around for a couple months, haven't played it, and it was just kind of like a game I bought because it was really cheap at one point, and I'm like, I need to probably play this at some point just to know what it is. Even not playing the full story, but just play it for like an hour. So I like, that's Killzone. Now I know what that is. So I got into that game, and it's really cool. I mean, I have to say that the graphics in the game for a game that's like 4 or 5 years old now, they're still very solid.
I was just about to ask how it aged.
It's aged really nice. Like, the thing about the game is it's very foggy and very like brown and black, so it doesn't. It ages well because it doesn't.
There's not a lot of color.
Yeah. And the actual gameplay was pretty good. It was a little jarring at points. The shooting wasn't extremely fun, but I still had enjoyment from the game. And the story was an alright story. But I have to say that you have this one teammate called Rico, and I have to consider him probably one of the most annoying characters that I've ever experienced in a video game. He ruins the story for me. Like, there's several, like, 2 points that he actually, like, screws you over and he's your teammate, like, because he just loses his temper, and he's kind of like one of those guys that's always talking shit. Whenever you do something good in the cutscenes, he's like, "What the fuck you did that, man?" And I'm like, I wanted to take the gun in the game and go, "No, you're not here anymore." And then the one, like, you have a squad of 4 guys, and one of them being you, and the one guy that's actually, like, the nice guy of the group, spoilers, they kill him. So, I mean, that sucked for me because I was like, well, now I have no one to like for the rest of this game. Everybody that I'm with is a douchebag.
I hate all of you.
Yeah, so it was like, it really kind of ruined the experience. But again, if you haven't played Killzone 2, you want to play it, I'm going to talk about something at the end of the game here that is very cool. So skip like a minute of this. But yeah, the end of the game has a very cool final boss fight. And I have to say that it's one of my favorites I played in a long time. So that was the one part that was kind of redeeming. Even though the game wasn't that amazing, final boss fight you have against Colonel Radek. He's this guy that can actually use like cloaking, so he disappears. And you have to go through like these multiple waves of enemies to finally get to him. And in the final fight, he's trying to like knife you, and he's cloaking, so he's moving around the area, so you actually don't know where he is, and you have to continually move your guy around to keep your eye on him. It was actually really kind of a cool circumstance because you don't normally get that in games. And usually boss fights in games are bad unless you have like the big monster.
Yeah.
Big monsters usually good in boss fights, but if you fight like an actual guy, they usually do it terrible. So I was actually excited to see that like a normal person with a cloaking ability was actually a really fun fight.
I think the game that perfected boss fights was probably God of War. That game has some awesome boss fights.
That's the big scale, though.
Yeah.
I think you can get away with a lot more cooler stuff when you have like a super monster type of scenario. But yeah, it had a good boss fight, and I'm going to play Killzone 3, but I'm going to take like a break. I'm not going to play it till like the summer when I don't have anything else to play. Because right now I'm at the point where I enjoyed the game and it was fun, but I don't want to play it again. I want a break, and I'm probably going to play Killzone Shadowfall if it is a launch title. So I'm going to play 3 in the summer and then, you know, have that 3 or 4 month break between 3 and Shadowfall. But yeah, I finished up BioShock, and I now understand why that game is a very cool game. And besides from that, I've jumped into Sound Shapes, which is a very cool title you can play on your Vita or on your PS3. And essentially, it's pretty simple. It's just a game where you collect these coins, which actually are notes in the game, and when you collect them, they actually make a song within the game, and each level is a song. And you have these actually interesting artists like Beck and Deadmau5 and Jim Guthrie are people that have contributed and made levels. They didn't make the actual levels. They had people doing that, but they made the songs and they kind of helped collaborate on it. So really interesting and kind of fun how that works out to be just a fun experience where you can play it for 5 or 10 minutes and get a little something out of it.
Yeah, I was playing the first level you were showing me, and it's really interesting because I had no idea what I was doing at first. I was just like, oh, there's a blue dot there. I guess I'll go grab that. And then the song starts getting more complicated, and I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. It's just like a simple platformer where the music just plays a big part in the game.
Yeah, and it was cool for me because when I started it, I didn't really know what to expect, except I knew it was a music game. And you see the complexity actually of the game grow, because it takes the fact that you hit notes, and if you don't hit those certain notes, then it won't actually understand that you did that. So it's really cool it does that, and it has a really cool music editor too, so there's stuff that I can play around with there. So I'm going to get into that, but that's pretty much what I've been playing this week, and that's the end of the episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back for another episode next week. We'll talk a little bit about Tomb Raider, as we're going to probably get into that one. Again, we'll probably be doing a spoiler cast for that as well. If you have any questions for the show, send that into checkpointachieved@gmail.com. We'll have questions at the end of the show once we start getting them in. And officially, this should be our first podcast up on iTunes, so you can check us out there. You can rate us, which will really help us get some acknowledgement on iTunes. So please do that. And also, you can check out our website, checkpointachieved.com, for potential blog content and the episode. But that is it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed. And for me, I'm signing out, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Peace.